Hi, welcome to today's lesson. For the quiz, just the same as yesterday's lesson, I have introduced sometimes some problems where there's two correct answers. So just to mix things up, if you've got a situation where there's two correct answers, if you circle one of the correct answers, you can get 3 points. If you want to maximize your points and you realize it's two correct answers, you'll circle in between. Okay, so that'll give you maximum answers. Bear in mind that some questions are still only one correct answer and some questions have no triangle at all. Okay, so let's get started. Pen and paper ready. Question 1. What relationship does the graph on the right suggest? So pause if you want to think about that one as I move on to question 2. What are the units for measuring acceleration? What are the units for measuring acceleration? So pause for that and I will move on to question 3 now. What's the gravitational field strength on Earth? What is the gravitational field strength on Earth? So pause to think about that one. Work your way through it, and I'm moving on to question 4. So a car's been given an initial push up the hill. It coasts up the hill slowing until it starts to roll down again. So at its highest point, which is shown, where the velocity is 0 meters a second just for an instant, what direction is the acceleration? Is it 0, no acceleration? Is it positive, or is it negative? So pause to think your way through that one, and I'll move on to the answers. Answer number 1. Okay, that's an inverse graph. We know an inverse graph is a 1 over x relationship, so that's 3 points for that one. Answer number 2 is 2 answers are correct. So meters per second squared, or another way, a third answer would have been meters per second, means the same thing. Meters per second squared means the same as meters per second squared. Yep. And you'll learn about a mass, if you haven't already, is when something's on the bottom of the fraction to the power, it's the same as having it on the top of the fraction but with a negative power. So that's why these two are the same, and the maximum answer you could have got was by putting that one in the middle. Okay, answer number 3. What is the gravitational field strength on Earth? It is 9.8 newtons for every kg. Okay, so if I'm 100 kgs, to work out my force of gravity, I have to times it by 9.8 newtons for every kg I have. The kgs cancel and I get myself 980 newtons. If I drop something, its acceleration is also 9.8 meters per second squared, but this isn't meters per second squared, this is a velocity, and that doesn't mean anything really. Cool. Number 4. If it's been pushed up the hill, it has a high initial velocity, and that gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And in between these is the acceleration. So the acceleration is in that direction. That direction is the negative, right? Back towards 0 is negative. And when it goes down again the other side, the velocities are getting bigger. And in between them we have accelerations. And they're still in the negative. And that instant that it gets to the top, the acceleration doesn't change. The velocity is still changing. Velocity is still changing, so there must be an acceleration, and that's the acceleration is still in the same direction. It didn't change the whole time. Another way of thinking about this is that its velocity started off positive, it became 0 at the top, and then it became negative. Velocity time graph. Acceleration time graph is the gradient of that. And at all points, the gradient's the same. How steep is it? It's always negative. So it's negative the whole way along this axis. Okay, see you in the lesson.